Tonight, Ukraine said conservatively more than 1,300 civilians have died in this war, but it thinks that number is likely much higher. I'm James Brown.
And I'm Molly Kowick. As Ukrainians die and more than 2 million have evacuated their country, I talked to a history professor from our area. He used to work in Ukraine and lived in Russia on and off for a decade. I asked him how he thinks this war will go down in history. This is the latest chapter in the storied history between Ukraine and Russia.
I think it's clear that it's going to go down in the history books as a gross violation of international war.
This invasion includes Russian forces bombing a maternity hospital, firing on and taking over a nuclear power plant, and forcing millions of Ukrainians out of their homes.
I've been spending my entire adult life really studying the history of Russian Empire. And so it's hard to see one part of what was formerly the Russian Empire at war against another part.
Dr. Pollack said Russian President Vladimir Putin views Russia and Ukraine as intertwined, going back to the 9th century. But Pollack said that is inaccurate.
The idea of the historical unity of Russians and Ukrainians from time immemorial is really a myth.
Instead, he said Ukrainian lands became part of the Russian Empire in the 18th century. Then, after World War I, Ukraine declared independence. And in 1922, Soviet leaders trying to rebuild the Russian Empire made a deal with Ukrainians.
They enshrined in the Soviet Constitution Ukrainian sovereignty for the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic and the right of secession.
Which is exactly what Ukrainian leaders did in 1991.
President Putin acknowledges Ukrainian sovereignty only insofar as it's it's within the context of partnership with Russia. He's got this kind of Russian imperial sense of this space. And so he views all of these parts of the former Soviet Union and parts of the former Russian Empire as fundamentally parts of the Russian state.
But that is not how Ukrainians see it, as evidenced by how they're fighting back against Russian troops. This video appeared to show Ukraine launching a counterattack to drive the Russians from a village in the Kyiv region Thursday. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces claim they defeated a Russian regiment, destroying one tank after another. But Russian attacks keep costing civilian lives.
Peaceful Ukrainian citizens are being attacked by a neighbor who has this irredentist vision of Ukraine truly belonging to Russia. And I just feel sorry for these citizens for having to absorb this brutal attack and this violation of international law.
The White House has warned Russia could use possible biological or chemical weapons in Ukraine or create a false flag operation accusing the West of using them.